Hey there, everyone. We are back. Welcome to Purple 8 Society, my little 4D university with playlists on everything from music to lectures to audiobooks and so much more. We are continuing our discussion on the tarot education, and we're going to continue with the number twos. But before I get to that, I want to say if you stay to the end for about 30 seconds to a minute, I'll share some information with you about my $7 a month mystery school. I've been having a lot of fun with that, so I'll tell you more about that later. And so now let's just begin our discussion on the number twos. So the number two, it represents a balance or relationship between two things, right? So it could be two people, two dimensions, two places, two realities, two ideas, two choices, two thoughts, two memories, two opportunities, all kinds of things. So but it doesn't just mean the two, it also encompasses the space between the two. A lot of times in cards, you'll see like pillars. You'll see these in the tarot cards or in other types of literature, art, in the mythologies and all. You'll see pillars, two pillars. And the pillars are almost like a doorway, walking between two pillars to go from one dimension to the next, right? But it also contains a space in between. There's a person making a decision between these two things. So there's almost like not only is it dealing with two people or structures or ideas or what have you, it also deals with the feeling between the two things, or the presence between the two things, the space between the two things, the movement, the flow between the two things. So we start now, as I say, I like to start with the swords, go from the swords, bring it down to the wands, down to the cups, and down to the pentacles. So we have two of swords. And like we talked about yesterday, our swords deal with anything going on in our headspace, our mind and our thoughts, our ideas, our beliefs, our psychic intuition, any kind of mental stress or duress, our intellect, our knowledge, our wisdom, our ability to make good decisions, because swords are decision makers. It's a weapon, right? And once the weapon slices, the decision has been made and there's no going back from that. The sword is not going to be misunderstood. But on the shadow attribute of sword, sometimes there is some misunderstanding. Sometimes there is stress, because that represents the same card, but it represents the opposite polarity of the card. Because with every card, just like with every personality type, with every astrological sign, with every situation, with every encounter, with everything, it has a polarity. So there's a wanted polarity and an unwanted polarity. And the unwanted aspect of the swords deals with maybe not having that mental clarity, mental stress, mental confusion. Well, the card is a picture of a woman, and she is I think they call him a swordsman. She practices using the sword as a weapon. So she's sitting out on this pier. She's dressed in white, initiatory white, as if she's going through some kind of initiatory process, kind of like a graduation process. She's going to exhibit her skill with not one sword, but two. So she's sitting on this pier. There's water, calm waters behind her, and the moon. So the moon and the waters both sort of deal with emotions and feeling. But even though this is a sword card, like we talked about yesterday, there's other aspects and other suits that are connected to each suit, because, for instance, a thought is going to have an emotional reaction or response, or, you're going to feel something based on what you think. Okay. So she's blindfolded as well. And so from a physical standpoint, it's a picture of a woman who is getting ready to, while being blindfolded, execute and exhibit her skill and her mastery with the swords. Okay. She has two swords sitting in front of her. And so she's going to have to connect to some level of intuition in order to, she's going to have to feel her way through this initiatory process of swinging these two swords and masterfully succeeding and graduating to the next level. But from a metaphysical standpoint, this is a person who is having to sort of feel her way in the dark. Because she can't see, she can't, she can't really, that's a sense that is missing. She can't see the world around her, so she can't make decisions based on what she sees. The mental decision that she has to make is based on how she feels. And that's why the water, air, and the moon are in the background. And because it's two swords, it's almost like, think about it from the physical. She's going to have to swing one sword, so she's going to have to make a decision with the right hand, which connects to the left brain, which is the masculine side of us, the masculine brain. And then she has a sword in her left hand, which connects to her right brain, her feminine side. So her arms are going to have to make their own decisions, kind of like a drummer. One hand is going to be hitting on the snare while the other is hitting on a tom or on a cymbal or doing a hi-hat sort of situation with the kick and the foot and the whole thing. So the two arms are going to have to make decisions on their own, but she sits between the two. She's the one that's making the choice and the decision based on what the swords are doing. So if you take it back to the metaphysical, to the esoteric, like the spiritual personal aspect of it, she's having to feel her way through a situation so that she can either make two good decisions or she can make the right decision between two things. But she's feeling her way through. Notice how the waters are calm on this card. And that just means that sometimes when we do make decisions between two things, or we have to feel our way through because we don't have access to all of the information, we can't fully see, quote unquote, our way through it as clearly, we don't really understand, we don't really know, maybe there's a lot of distractions going on which make it hard to make the decision. Sometimes we have to come back to zero, come back to center. We have to close our eyes and listen and feel our way through the thing. And that is really, in essence, what the Two of Swords represent. And remember, two, the nature element of the two is air, where our thoughts reside, how we breathe them in, our consciousness breathe and exhale. And what was I going to say? The playing card equivalent of the swords is your spades. Okay. Next card we pull, we bring that down to the Two of Wands. And so our wands, like we talked about yesterday, easy to remember, bibbity bobbity boo. When the fairy godmother waves the wand, that which is in Cinderella's consciousness, that's what she desires, what she sings about, what she can feel with her emotions that she explained in the beginning. That is what that is manifested. The wand is the symbolic representation of taking something from the field of the mind or the field of pure potentiality, that field of air, and bringing it into a physical reality, just like lightning takes place. We see it in the air. It seemingly comes from nowhere, and then with some kind of friction in the sky, now it's manifested into a physical form, right? So that it's dealing with manifestation. Now it's two, so we're still dealing with the balance between the two things. And the man looks like a world traveler. He's standing between two wands as he looks out over this land, as he looks out over this, whatever this piece of land is. And he's holding in his hand a globe, a ball. And a lot of times in the tarot cards or in the ancient symbolic art, if you see one holding that ball, a lot of times that ball represents the world or the globe. It kind of like having the world in one's hand. The world is sitting in his hand. And this card deals with, on one hand, where we had the Ace of Wands, it was a new beginning. Now we're adding to that new beginning, and now we're stepping out a little bit, because our wands are kind of an action-oriented card. We're stepping out a little bit more into the realm of the two. And so now it's possible that he's making a decision between two places that he wants to be. Because the card really deals with, seeing things from a more macro point of view, surveying the land, being able to pay attention to what's around you. And a lot of times that takes place from moving from one manifestation to another. So we're moving from one to another, It's a movement kind of card. So this card can deal with travel. A lot of times it can deal with travel, or, just little trips, or just getting another point of view, or, sometimes, just getting out of one space, moving into another space, because it is that movement that that perspective. When people travel, they're gaining culture, they're gaining knowledge, they're gaining wisdom. It's going from 1 to 2, or ace to 2, is an expansion. It's a manifested expansion, and a lot of times that expansion takes place from expanding our perspective, and a lot of times we expand our perspective with conversations with other people, with traveling, with reading about other lands or other situations. It's just expanding and putting ourselves in another point of view, kind of going from one to the next. The card, a lot of times they try to make the card as if it deals with just strictly travel, but it's more than travel. I think it has to do with the perspective that is manifested out of the action of movement between, the expanded view of going from 1 to 2, right? So it's more than travel. Travel is one aspect of it, but it's bigger than just travel. It is the expanded point of view. The next card we pulled is one of my favorites. It's the Two of Cups card, and I love pulling this card, especially nowadays when there's so much discussion about love and relationship and how it's supposed to be, and the red pill and the gender, roles and whatever. And I feel like this card just sort of simplifies all that. It pulls people out of the argument. It takes us out of the peanut gallery of it, and it puts it right back in perspective. And it's Two of Cups, Two of Hearts, going back to the Two of Wands. Remember, the nature element of wands is going to be your fire, and the clubs are its playing card counterpart. And so with Two of Cups, remember, cups deal with our emotions. The nature element is water. Sometimes it's interchangeable. Sometimes when you read, because I studied a little bit in this book called The Penguin Dictionary of Symbols that we use in my mystery school, and I looked up cups, and it talked about how not only does the mythology have it filled with water, but sometimes it has it filled with milk, which is the nurturing of the mother. Or sometimes it's filled with wine, which is like the flow of something more subtle, like spirit, like spirituality is what they call alcohol, a spirit. And in the card, it's a picture of a woman and a man. They're standing, they're facing each other, holding their own cup, and they look pleased with each other. So there's some agreement going on. In between them, first of all, behind them, there's this big lush land. So there's some aspect of maybe happiness, or just, how you feel when you get a very beautiful view, that emotion of a beautiful view, a beautiful experience. Well, they're sort of sharing this, and how they're sharing it is between a complementary relationship between the masculine and feminine, because it's a woman and a man. So sometimes it represents man and woman, but sometimes it represents the masculine and feminine within both of us. And how do we know? Because right in between them sits the caduceus symbol. If you look on the medical alert bracelets, you'll see this symbol where it looks like a pole in the middle, and these two lines spiraling up, and then these wings at the top. On the tarot card, it's a pole, which represents our spine, where our subtle energy discs called our chakras sit, that affect every part of our body and every part of our health and every part of our life experience. But then there's these two serpents going up this pole, which represent the masculine and the feminine coming together as kundalini energy, rising from the lower chakra all the way up. And when it reaches the crown chakra that is above the head, it's an energy center that is a part of our subtle body above the head. When the kundalini reaches above there, there's awakening, because it's a picture of a lion's head with wings. So it's the angelic, divine, higher mind representation with the wings, and the lion representing strength. So there's a power, a strength, coming together of the masculine and feminine. There's a balance, there's an order, and a healing and an awakening that comes. That's why the symbol was sort of usurped into our modern day medical association, because in the ancient days, Egypt and Greece, health and healing was an internal process. We did it from raising our Kundalini energy. Now, what does it say about the card? It's just a representation that the masculine and the feminine are in agreement, right? Whether it is a man and a woman, or the right brain and the left brain, right brain being feminine, left brain being masculine. That unification, that coming together is where, in many cases, happiness extends, when we're able to integrate. They call it hemisphere synchronization, brain hemisphere synchronization. It creates healing. It creates awakening and awareness. It creates clarity. It helps people to focus. And there's even meditations on this and sound vibrations that help to integrate those two parts of us. But that's what this card represents. It's like a fusion effect of what comes from the agreement between masculine and feminine energy. That's not just in a relationship, but it's also taking place within ourselves. Our right brain, our feminine brain, they call it feminine because it encompasses things like nurturing, creativity, sensuality. I look at the feminine brain as the brain that sees the whole of a thing, whereas the left brain is the masculine brain, and it breaks things apart to dissect and analyze it. It's the logical brain, the reasoning brain, the calculating brain. The feminine side of us is magnetic. The masculine side of us is electric. And when the two come together and work together effectively, in the body that houses it, then one can move through life a little bit more, just a little bit different. And that's how I see that card. When I see that card, I see that agreement between that masculine and that feminine. It creates a heart level agreement. That's what the whole concept of falling in love is about. An agreement between the masculine and feminine, where the two allow themselves, because we give ourselves permission to love, and it's based on someone who, for whatever reason, we resonate with that person, and we give ourselves permission to love. So the love really comes from us. They're just like a prompt for it. And it creates it's like a heart synchronization that is created when those two meet, but it also takes place in the brain as well. So that's how I personally see the Two of Cups. And then the last card we have here is the Two of Pentacles. And as we discussed yesterday in our Aces cards, Pentacles represent our physical reality. Anything we can see, smell, taste, touch, and hear, those are resources to us. Our physical body is a resource to us. Books and technology and cars, our home, our hair care products, our shower, water, all of that is a physical resource. Now the picture of the on the card is a court jester, and he's outside juggling these two pentacles, right? These two coins. He's juggling the two coins. And and remember that the pentacle, the nature element, is earth, and the playing card equivalent is going to be your diamonds. Okay. So we're dealing with a physical resource, but something that's of value. And we know that he's juggling them because there's this little symbol in between that looks like the sideways number 8, the infinity symbol. It's just showing that symbol here is used just to represent a juggle. And so he's juggling these two pentacles. So it's possible that he has some decisions to make between some physical things. Will he choose his job, the place where he physically goes to work to make physical money, or will he choose his physical body? Will he choose maybe he's in love with two humans who have physical bodies. Maybe he's in love and he's choosing between. It could be that he's, clarifying and juggling with two directions that he wants to go, two places that he wants to live, but things that are in the physical, and he's juggling them to sort of get a sense of which makes sense to him. Now, in the background of this card, you'll see water again. So now you know that he's juggling the decision that he's trying to make with things related to his physical reality. You know that there is some emotional consideration. Again, each suit affects the other suit. So you'll see semblances of one suit on another suit of a card. It's the same here. We're dealing with pentacles, but there's an emotional aspect to this. And it's sort of in one sense, it's very similar to this Two of Swords card, because this is a decision that he's making, and he's feeling his way through it with the water in the back, but it's a decision that affects or impacts his ability to obtain resources, to manage resources, or to use resources to create more resources. And that's what he's juggling in his mind, is how he's going to deal with the things of his physical world that he either needs to draw in, maintain, and make grow. And so that's how I look at the twos. I hope that this was helpful to you, anyone on a tarot journey. I do advise you to always start from the ace, because I did give a lot of history of the tarot in that, so that you can understand what it really is supposed to be used for, and not the hocus pocusry of it all. Not that I'm judging any other tarot reader, but I do feel like we got to know what really is what. It can be a prompt. If a person has psychic ability, then it's not the card, it's the person. The card is just, used as a prompt, but tarot was never intended to be something where we read anyone's minds, or we predict future events or anything like that. Now, as I promised, I said I would talk a little bit about my mystery school that I have, $7 a month. It's called the Inner Forward, Mystery School. And what I do better than anything is, besides, music and stuff, is I break down the mystery symbols that are found in the tarot and ancient story, ancient myth, the temple walls, and that's found in our everyday lives, that's found in television, and that's found in even reality TV and film and comedy. It's breaking down those symbols and how to integrate the knowledge of those symbols into one's everyday life. And it helps for shadow work. It helps to detox the personality, helps us clarify, helps us to heal. And it's a lot of fun as well. And like I said, I've been a tarot practitioner for 13 years, but I've been doing tarot education for the last 6 years, and I'm having a lot of fun. It's interesting. It's a very interesting conversation. You learn so much from it. I learn so much from it, because I always make interesting connections. We also have a book club where we read a chapter of a book that is for self-development or spiritual development, and all of that comes in one audio that goes out every Sunday, and it's only $7 a month. And it's on my Substack platform. If you're interested in the Mystery School, you want to listen to one of the episodes for free, you're able to do that as well. Click the link in my bio. And it's in my bio, but in the description box, it's also there as well. Click the link in my description box to learn more about that. And check out the playlist section. I'm going to put a playlist in the description box for you as well, one that I think you'll love. This time I'm going to put a music one in the description box. But I hope to see you over there in the Mystery School. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll continue with the threes tomorrow. Bye-bye.